so you cannot meet him tomorrow. He will be at the Conversation Studio later today at 1 o'clock. And if you need to talk with Stig, you can also check him up here after the show. So let's give a warm welcome to Stig.
Everyone can hear? Thank you, Louisa. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know, you can put the headset on in case you want to listen in on this talk. I've been granted 30 minutes. And, oh, there we are, yes. I've been granted 30 minutes, so we have plenty of time to go through some of the main aspects of breathing, how it can improve your life, and maybe more importantly, how breath holding can improve your life. And it's both for performance, rehabilitation, and just everyday energy levels. So I'm going to delve or dive into the breath holding as well. But like I'm mentioning here, today we're going to talk about to breathe or not to breathe. So it's alluding a little bit to Shakespeare, Hamlet, a little bit like the philosophical way of should we do something or not, to do or not to do, to be or not to be. But today I'll talk about why we are not going to breathe and why it's very healthy. Boom. We'll go one back. Okay, just in brief, as mentioned, my background is in biology. I have a master's degree in biology, and then I did a PhD in medicine. So everything in science, health, nature, and medical human physiology is an intersection that I'm very interested in. And then, of course, I founded Breatheology. But if you should say something in brief, it's just that I'm very curious about nature. It's always been like that. I have not changed since that photo. My little brother sitting there is in the audience. I'm not going to point at him, but he's the one peeing there in the water. But always nature and water. So that's who I am. It hasn't changed. I'm 51 today, on my way to 52, so it's the same. Today we're going to go through some topics that I hope will give you an insight that you might not have before. I know many of you are in breath work, you're interested in yoga and health in general, that's why you're here, right? But maybe today you open a new door and at 1 o'clock, as Louisa mentioned, there's a breath holding or breath work session, breath work extreme, I called it, just to call it something. It's not like sitting there doing little, no, we're really going all out. So at 1 o'clock, I've been granted 40 minutes. So all of you who want to come there can come and talk, join the fun. It's going to be an adventure. Why is conscious breathing so important? I'm going to talk about that briefly. Then we're going to talk about lung function, because if your lungs are not working, we know that you don't have the energy and the normal resilience in life. Longevity is also a big topic now in biohacking, how to have a long and healthy and good life. It doesn't matter if you have a long life if it's not healthy. Brain activity, we'll go into flow. We'll talk about sports psychology. We'll talk about how you can use breathing to change the wave frequency in your brain. Maybe not something you have thought about, but it's very, very practical. The mammalian dive response, MDR, maybe you never heard about it. You will know about it when you leave. CO2 tolerance. If you should take something away from today's keynote, it is that CO2 is your friend. So it's not just a waste product. You can build coral from it. The plants love them. The ocean will harvest it. So it's kind of it's an interesting thing. Carbon, you know, CO2. 2 oxygens. Natural doping. How can we dope and get stronger naturally instead of using things that are maybe not so natural? Cardiovascular fitness. Can you train your heart and your cardiovascular system without moving? Would that be beneficial if you were bedridden, meaning you're in a bed or in a situation where you can't move in a hospital? It would probably be very, very smart. Or you're training rehabilitation after an accident. If you're an athlete, it's very smart. Peak performance and health, that's a given, right? I created something called Breatheology about 15 years ago. Obviously, it means the science and the implementation and the understanding of breathing. It's the doing of breathing, so Breatheology, like biology is the learning of life. It's mixing ancient wisdom, my love and passion for yoga, timeless wisdom in the meditation, mindfulness. Then peak performance, we have to see results. Right? I'm a 4-time freediving world champion. I love to do the Guinness World Records. I like to push myself, but not just for pushing the limits. It's fun to show how I do it and then the techniques that got me there, because it works. And that's where we have the last part, modern science. We need to measure what's going on in the body, and that's again where we're in the biohacking. I claim that freedivers are the first biohackers, or some of the first ones, but you can challenge me on that later. As mentioned, it's mainly an online platform. 15 years ago, I saw more and more people sitting and looking in their phone. Sounds weird, but that happened. Then more and more looked in a tablet or a Kindle or an iPad, and every time I went to England, more people looked. Then I went to the US, more people looked. When you came in the plane, everybody sat and looked, like in Denmark now, and Asia especially. So I thought maybe it's a good idea to train and help people inside their phones, so I created an online community. And you have training and education on that platform. We actually on a masterclass here on a yacht. I also do live masterclasses, but we also can sit and watch a breathing meditation, as in this example. Now you should all stand up, because we can't fall asleep, all of us. We're going to talk about your beautiful lungs. And for those of you who are not doctors or did not study biology, how many segments are in the right lung? Yeah, how many segments, how many departments in the right lung? 3, yes, we have a winner, good. How many are in the left lung? 2, why? Huh? Oh, we need a mic? Is this not working, or is it? No, they can just shout it out. Oh, yeah. But 2 in the left, but no, it's fine. It's just kind of, I see some interaction, right? 2 in the left, because you have a heart sitting here. It's an asymmetrical anatomy. It's fun. I think it's fascinating. I want to show you how amazing your body is, so if you want, come at 1 o'clock, but we'll do a little bit of warm-up now. Stretch your arms up. Breathe in. Hold the breath and breathe out. The nose is for breathing, the mouth is for eating, so only nose breathing. Breathe in. Hold it and breathe out. One last time. Get that lung breathing and waking up. Stretch towards the roof, up to the sky. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Smile, 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 and rain. You're warm already? You're awake already? No coffee needed? Great. Those are your beautiful lungs. These are plastic filled, but these are the real lungs. That's what it looks like, a coral reef. And inside of that, you have millions of little rosebuds, little end stations where the oxygen is jumping into the blood and the CO2 is coming back. But that's a real human lung. Can you increase the lung capacity? Ask any doctor? No. Ask me? Yes. So that's also why I want you to stand up, because this is very important. You don't have to understand all the details here, but in general, it just shows the liters of air in the lungs, so the volume, the size of the lungs, and then you have age, right? So what we see is that men and women have the same line, so it's with age declining, the lung volume is shrinking. Now, there was a study called the Framingham study done from 1948. Now, in the 3rd generation, it's a cohort study. It means it studies a group of people. They live in Framingham. It's a city in Massachusetts. They've been studying them for cardiovascular reasons, like are they healthy? How's the heart doing? For 3 generations. They found one of the biggest indicators of a long life and a healthy life was lung volume. Right? One of the strongest indicators at 40 years old, at 50, at 60. Big, strong lungs. Why? It's the tank. It's your energy reserve. It's the oxygen. So now the good news for today, then you can leave. You can stay for the rest as well. But with training and lung training and stretching and stuff we're going to do later, and now maybe you do like this, and you feel the lungs opening, and then you blow out, right? You can actually start to modulate and become more flexible and use the breathing better. So the point is, if you can have that curve not go like this, but like this, you might be out here, right? You might be here at this age, not here. You might be here, right? So you might be here, which would be at the age of 45, but maybe now you are 75. Do you understand my point? Yes, you need to train those lungs, keep them strong and flexible. How do we breathe? We breathe subconsciously. That is great. That keeps us alive. It's also a very, very there's a dark side of the story, because we're not taught how to breathe in our culture. We take it for granted, so we develop bad breathing patterns. Mouth breathing, chest breathing, all these kind of bad habits. And we do a lot of breathing every day. So if you have a bad habit, it just continues. How many times do we breathe per day? Shout it out, anyone? Who was the first one? A guess? Don't calculate. Shout it. Huh? 20,000. That's a good guess. We have a winner. Woo! Round of applause. Yay! All right. It is 25 to 30,000, but I award you the book because you just tried and shouted something. A young man, so that's the difference between old, stupid people that calculate and try to analyze the world instead of the spontaneous intuition of a young, smart, bright man. Thank you so much. It doesn't matter if it's 20 or 30,000 times. It's a damn lot of breathing every day. And imagine if you do it wrong. With high chest, what happens to the heart rate when you breathe like this? What happens? It goes up. What happens to the blood pressure? It goes the same way. So could we reverse it and lower the blood pressure without medicine? Of course we can. Of course we can. The key to relaxation is in the exhalation. We saw it on the first slide. Oh, that was a little bit too fast. Sorry. So what I'm showing here, I hope you can all see it, but my point is that inhalation is active, so it's a little bit stressful. So does it make sense? You need to work for the inhale, right? The intercostal muscles are working, the little rubber bands here between the rib cage and the diaphragm is moving down. It is an action that costs energy. Exhalation is free, it's passive, it's your gift, right? From nature. We even put sound on it sometimes, right? A sigh. When we relax, and then everything comes down, the mind comes down. So the more you can relax, the more you can stay in the passive exhale. The longer you can stay there, then it becomes a breath hold, which I'm going to talk about soon. You have a much higher tendency to relax in that state because the diaphragm is also sleeping in its resting position. Up here, after a passive exhale, the diaphragm lifts. It sleeps here, right? As soon as you breathe in, you put tension in your body. Blood pressure goes up, lymphatic system, everything is activated. All right. So that's how we breathe. So the more you can focus on the 4 phases of breathing, so inhaling, slight pause, exhaling, and then a slight pause. Those 4 cycles in a breath, it's very important. Now we just look quickly at the diaphragm. It connects to your back as well. So if you have lower back pain, it might be because you don't breathe well. Or if you don't breathe well, you might develop lower back pain. You can alleviate that with some good breathing and stretching. That we're also going to do at 1 o'clock. Now I'm not going to say it anymore. But this is like a big jellyfish. It's like a big umbrella. It's a big, big tissue that sucks in the air. It's a negative pressure or vacuum. And you need to keep that flexible because it's your engine. So if it's like a car driving on 4 cylinders, but only 2 are working, of course it's not really moving. It's not a good engine. Same with the diaphragm. A lot of people have trauma, tension in the diaphragm, especially in the solar plexus region. Those who work in trauma release those, all of this. We need to release that, and with exhale and letting go, we can rinse all that. Now we can sit down because we're going to do a little simple exercise just to see how much you're actually paying attention. And we're going to do this so you blow out like this. Then you hold your breath. So it's the first breath hold exercise today. Hold your breath, and then you lift the diaphragm, right? Lift. All right. And then we start in the center. Keep going. Start from right. Move to left. All right. We reverse. Go the other way. Feel those things in your belly. Then we go a little bit lower. You can connect all the way down, the base of the diaphragm. All right. One more time. All right. You all feel something moving a little bit in there? Your body is amazing, and everyone can do this. It might take training, but everybody can learn to do this. I want to talk a little bit about the science now, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about breath work and about breathing, what it does to you, what it doesn't do. So I've been in this world for 25 years of being researched like a little guinea pig. And they've taken all kinds of samples, blood samples, scanning my brain, scanning different organs, ultrasound of the spleen where you have the red blood cells, a lot of tests, lung volume, of course. At my peak, it was at 14 liters. And you might think, how can you go to 14 liters? Anybody familiar with lung packing? Boom! So you have to be a little bit careful, but it can really damage the lungs if you don't pay attention. Now, this is a long time ago, as you can see in the photo, but one of the questions I get the most is, how can you hold your breath so long? And we had 3 scientists flying from Harvard. Actually, one of the scientists got the Nobel Prize for the discovery. They found out why I can hold my breath so long. It was shocking, the results. And here it is. I have a very small brain. So it doesn't use a lot of oxygen. So that is kind of, I was born with it. I don't know. So no, of course, I'm kidding. This is not true. But so it's not because of that. But when you don't use so much blood, of course, you can hold your breath longer, right? So yeah, you're smiling, you know, it's because I have a very small penis. But don't tell, it doesn't matter. We're all not born the same. This is me, however, you look inside my brain here, boom. There it is, you see big nose, big ears, this is me. And the interesting part, what I want to mention here is that there has been, and we're back to reality now, a lot of studies done on my brain and other people in freediving people's brain. There is no sign of damage, ischemic damage. So there's no sign of having too little oxygen to the brain and some damage, right? This is very important to know. We also looked at something else that is interesting, brain plasticity. It means you can modulate the brain. And there seems to be areas in the brain when you do breath holding and meditation that you can enforce, you can grow, you can make new connections in some very important areas of the brain. Natural doping. When you hold your breath, you release erythropoietin. It is a hormone known as EPO. You have heard about EPO, yes? You release it from the bone marrow, then you produce red blood cells, you can carry more oxygen. Good thing if you're an athlete, or if you want to be healthy, or if you're sick and want to become healthy again. So that's a natural way you can do it by holding your breath. You don't have to go to hyperbaric chambers. You don't have to go to the mountains. You can be in the bed at home or your yoga mat and hold your breath. The vagus nerve. Why am I talking about that? It's the 10th cranial nerve. Don't forget this, number 10. And I would argue it's one of the most important nerves. When you do this slow exhale, that I talked about, you go into what's called rest and digest. You decide that you're moving into the part of your nervous system that's called the parasympathetic part, the relaxed system. So I call it relax on demand. I think I coined that term, but it is relax on demand at will. So you can use your breathing pattern to control your mind to become more calm. It is a very, very good life hack. I hope you can take it with you as a life skill, not just for breath holding or freediving. The father of flow. Oh, yeah, so why is it also important? You become more altruistic. You listen better if you work at a group, if you work at a company, if you work in the Navy SEALs, like a team. So when you do that, you're not stressed anymore because you turn down the stress response. Adrenaline, cortisol, and you turn up the good things. Oxytocin, the feeling good love hormone, serotonin, dopamine, the feeling good, the happy hormones. Flow, I just want to mention that it's all about the happiness you feel in your brain, and flow is a brain activity. It's called alpha waves, but you're normally in beta when you're listening. With breath holding, I've found it can be a gateway to flow. It can be a shortcut to flow because you concentrate and meditate in a specific way. So you train your brain to go into that state where time disappears. It's very, very beneficent if you want to hold your breath for a long time. I was the first to pass the 20 minutes, so you have to do something in that brain while you're in the water. Who's also going to use it? We talked about peak performance, precision. So the snipers, for example, you see on the right, their shooting range is closer when they do breathing and breath holding and hold that pause and release any tension in the muscles. Also for flying, it goes the same. Of course, you know, for the fighter pilots. I was training last year the F-35 Lightning. You know, they're having new planes coming to Denmark. So you have probably seen Top Gun, how they do the hook breathing. So they're actually holding to push the blood to the, holding the pressure to put the oxygen and the blood to the brain. If not, they faint, right? So what does it look like? I thought, okay, I'll show you. But first I want to tell you, when I trained to fly this combat aircraft, or to fly in it, this is a training plane. This captain, he went up, the pilot went to 13,000 feet. He was at 89% oxygen saturation. That would be the same as an old lady going to the hospital, not too high. Within 30 seconds of doing this exercise I'm going to do with you now, breathe in, slide pause, and then like a snake say tss. It's called 1-2, ujjayi, the sound, shh, the sound. It pushes more oxygen into your bloodstream. You become smarter, stronger. So the elevation of oxygen went to 96 in 30 seconds, and the heart rate drops, by the way. So it's very useful. What does it look like? I thought, why not bring it here? Because sometimes when you put the oxygen mask on, you need to also hold your breath if it's not turned on. You need to sit manually and turn on the oxygen. So there are reasons to be able to hold your breath and not panic. So it's more like this. And then you might say, but all this breath holding, was it good for? What can it help me with? That's what I'm going to discuss now. I want to show you how breath holding can be used in your everyday life, for your yoga, for your training, or just for everyday things. You don't need to hold your breath for like minutes and minutes. You can just hold it for 30 seconds, 1 minute, but use the benefits of that pause, right? Then after a longer time, after 1-2 minutes, you start to have benefits on the physiology, and then on the lungs as well. So we're going to talk about something called Bahir Kumbhak or Bahir Kumbhak. It just means empty lung. So again, now I encourage you to breathe out. Just breathe out passively. Just say, ah, and then hold your breath. And then we see a little video. And while we see this, I will talk about why I'm so privileged and honored to be here today. First of all, I want to thank, because it's 1 minute, I want to thank Tina and all the organizers for putting on this amazing event. I want to put all the volunteers also on the spot and say they've worked so hard, but all of you also for coming. So thank you. That's just what I wanted to say. I have the privilege of working with people. That's my blessing. That need it for rehabilitation. These people have post-polio. You see the legs are very thin. They're not really working. So to give them freedom, give them a self... like being self and independent again is wonderful. They're still holding the breath, and you know, these have smaller lungs than you guys, so I hope you're still holding it as well. And it just gives this peacefulness to put people in water, and I think it's wonderful. Whether it's an illness, accidents, trauma, you can use water training and breath holding in many safe ways. What's going on inside? I talked about it before, the mammalian dive response. You have an inner dolphin living in your belly, and I promise you, you have. A small dolphin is a... You do, yes, you should be happy. And for some people it looked like this, as happy. That's a little guy again peeing in the water this time. But we do have it as babies. We have this dive response and it doesn't go away. But then when we grow older it goes away, but you can nourish it. And what does it do? It makes you dive longer and calm your heart rate more because you conserve oxygen. So you become like a dolphin. We share it with all mammals, especially those in water. But all mammals have this, pigs, cats, dogs. So I talked about cardiovascular fitness and adaptation is important because we want to adapt. We want to get the body used to new stimulus, right? Like you go in the ice water to really strengthen your nervous system. Cardiovascular fitness from breath holding is second to none. It is so crucial. How do I use it? I use it for my ice diving. This is when I beat the Wim Hof record a long time ago, 2010. So you're kind of rewiring your nervous system. You need to adapt and not freak out when it has a new response, right? You have to be calm and have a good response to the stimulus. So I also think smiling is very important. So when you end something, a hard work, especially CrossFit, whatever you're tired, smile. It's better than grinding your teeth, I promise you. Then in 2010, I got this crazy idea, and some friend helped me, said, why wouldn't you think it's great to hold your breath for 20 minutes? I thought, absolutely, that's fantastic. And then I developed this slow motion thinking. So one of the techniques I do is really turn down the pace of my brain thinking, and with this small brain, it's very easy for me. And then time flies by, right? So 20 minutes go really quick. Here again, that's a little guy peeing there. So if you see him, that is him. He's a doctor. He's been helping me on all these world records, all of them since my beginning, so I'm very thankful. This is 22 minutes when I was crowned the ultimate superhuman on Discovery, but I'm more proud of the 20 minutes, the 2010 in the Shark Tank in 2010, so it matches the year. Because it was the first time a person broke that barrier, so now it's broken again and again, and it doesn't matter. A shortcut to flow, I mentioned. I think if you try this at home, if you hold your breath sometimes and you slow your mind and you do it, we're going to do some of the exercises as well at 1 o'clock. You can use this for many other situations where you feel stressed or a bit uncomfortable. You can find into that beautiful place in your brain, and you lead breathing. You let breathing help you into that part of your nervous system. This, you know from the Big Blue. What's it feel like when you dive? Joanna asked. Rosanna Arquette, this sweet, beautiful lady. She's so in love with this beautiful, handsome man, Jacques. Chiang Mai Bar. It's a feeling of slipping without falling. And it really is. This is diving the Tisselgorm in the Red Sea. I'm just floating down because when your lungs are compressed, you fly down. You don't even need to move. You just sink. What's happening in the brain? Maybe hard to see, but do you see alpha here? There's a spike when you're holding your breath compared to breathing. It triggers alpha. Your brain is more active in the alpha state. A little bit of why CO2 is good. I'm sorry, it seems a bit complex, but this is cerebral blood flow, so how much blood is flowing through the brain. Giving pure oxygen is not very good. You see, blue is little, red is a lot. But when you put carbogen, which is 95% oxygen, and CO2, you have a lot of activity, and the same just with normal CO2. Meaning, if you hold your breath, you open the blood vessels because CO2 is a vasodilator. Just like nitrogen oxide from your nose, why you should breathe with the nose, CO2 is your friend. Alfred Johannes Miesner, the physiologist from Switzerland who discovered a lot of benefits of CO2, said over the protection of oxygen to the body, CO2 spread its protective wings. So CO2 is a very good thing to train. I want to end this with saying never dive alone. Because maybe people think I'm Superman, you know, I can just breathe when I need to. You cannot. It comes without warning. Never hold your breath alone in water. This is one of my trainings dive for the world record in 2004. Totally out, gone, dead, if nobody had helped me. So you need to trust the team, but you also need to never hold your breath in water. And just as a strong reminder of that, we have lost way too many beautiful people. This is my best friend. He died 6th of August, 2012. And always with us in our hearts, but absolutely not an extreme sportsman. He was a marine biologist just like myself, but he went diving alone, and you shouldn't do that. How do I use the breathing in my everyday life? Well, when COVID hit and everybody panicked and people were locked down in their houses, I thought, why not go in nature, get some sun, train? I'm nearly 50 at that point. Why not train for a new world record? So I bought a house over here. I live there as well in Mexico. I train with animals. I look at animals. I mimic animals. I try to be like the animals in the water. And then I did something I call the 2020 dive to end 2020 on a positive note, not freaking out and being scared. I don't know if there's some sound on it, but it looks like this. And that's the last Guinness World Record I did. I did 202.0 meters like 2020 because I like to do records so you remember them and they resemble some year or some symbolic value, not just some random 187 meters. So I'm swimming along. Doesn't really matter, but I wanted it to look like a whale. That was my idea. I wanted it to be like a Discovery Channel program where you saw a whale from the drone. That was the image I had. That was the creation I wanted to bring to people. So I hope it looks a little bit like a whale or a dolphin. Something like that. And it was also just to show, because we have some people here on stage, 50 years old, 60 years old. You know, we're not all 25 like this young man anymore. And you can still be, whether you're an old grandpa, whatever, you can still have dreams, you can have a purpose, but you should keep aspiring for new things, right? Records are not private records, doesn't matter. And how do I use it with athletes? I told you it's a great way to use breath holding. I use breath holding as a tool in Breatheology to help people to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Whatever stress you have in your life, whatever uncomfortable feeling, you can learn to go through that when you hold your breath slowly. Gently, step by step. You need to train the nervous system. It's very fragile and sensitive. So that's how I train, right? I put people underwater. I do different exercises with the body and the mind, and then they learn to push through the comfort zone because, as we all know, growth happens on the other side of your comfort zone. This is Greenland. What do I do? Mind-body agreement. One of the finest physiologists, he's now dead, but an old scientist in the US who was specialized in ice exposure to the body, he said, Stig, please, he signed the book. He has a big book. He said, please never make an agreement with your body, with your mind that your body cannot keep. So, you know, you need to have both the body and mind in check. Then I swim along there, and that's about it. And this is from Greenland, the last world record I did in speedos. We can talk about it later if you want, but I thought it was a great honor to swim in a lake. Nobody's been diving there, so it's like a virgin dive. And again, you have to trust the team because the ice is about 1 meter, and you need good safety divers. So with that, I want to end the talk. And instead of saying impossible, why not just put a little dot up there? Then it's I'm possible. You've probably seen it before. So maybe you don't know, but I was a little kid with asthma and a lot of allergies as a child. and then it turned out a little bit differently. So you can work with asthma, you can improve your health and your immune system from breath work, especially breath holding. That was the big deal for me. And ending on this, Walter Monk, one of the greatest oceanographers of all time. He's in the eternal heavens now, but he was in D-Day. He was like for the current and the situation when they had the landing of Normandy. So a long time ago, I was training him when he was past 100 years. He could hold his breath for more than 1 minute. And he had a beautiful dive one day. I said, "What did you think about?" He said, "Oh, I was back in Austria at my home." He was from a Jewish banking family. Before the World War, they moved to the US. And he was there listening to his favorite symphony. Isn't that beautiful? So you can do a lot of things in the water. My dream is that old people or retired people have better health care from breathing, that kids learn to breathe, and that we all learn to realize that we have this incredible power within 35 or 30,000 times a day. Thank you so much for paying attention. I'll be staying here. If anybody has questions, I know a few people want to join the instructor course or the masterclass that starts in a few weeks online. I saw a few of you. But I'm flying to Paris tonight, so if you don't want to talk now, then come and join the 1 o'clock session. And then after that, I have time to talk for an hour, so if you want to hear about the online program. Thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Stig.
Thank you.